All right. Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Call Halayim Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim Akar Kadash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who taught us the truth. Honors and salutations to all sincere Akim throughout the four corners of the earth, laboring in honesty, sincerity, charity, and in sound doctrine. All right, my name is Micah Allah Bungad Bunyasha Allah with the Watchman Philadelphia camp. And shout out to the women and children that believe on the true name of the Father and the Son, which the true name of the Father is Yahweh. He exists, Yahweh Shai, he's the deliverer, because he's coming back to deliver us. This is part 3 to fuck your Thanksgiving, man. All right, it says the Plymouth Thanksgiving story. All right, I know a lot of brothers, is familiar with the story with Malcolm X, and he said Plymouth Rock ain't land. We ain't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. So this is going into that, basically the Plymouth Thanksgiving story. As a matter of fact, you could just look up Plymouth because you got cars named Plymouth, American cars, I believe. Salaki. See, it says when the Pilgrims crossed the Atlantic Ocean in 1620, they landed on the rocky shores of a territory that was inhabited by the Wampanoag Indians. The Wampanoags were part of the Algonquin speaking peoples, a large group that was part of the woodland culture area. These Indians lived in villages along the coast of what is now Massachusetts and Rhode Island. They lived in round roof houses called wigwams. These were made of poles covered with flat sheets of elm or birch bark. Wigwams differ in construction from tipis that were used by Indians of the Great Plains. Now, wigwams, when I came up, when I first heard them, they was like a sock that was real thick, man. Like it would be a regular sock, the one that gets to your ankle and all that was real thick, and they used to have the skinny, the tight fitting jeans around your ankle back in the 80s and all that. You know what I'm saying? Grade school, 80s, not early 90s, but late 80s basically. And the girls used to wear wigwams, man. I think some dudes wore them, but they were warm. Okay. It says see, that's how you know it's nothing new under the sun too, man. Cause it say wigwams. That's what they call them. Wigwams. It says the Wampanoags moved several times during each year. Now see that? Hold up, Salaki. I'm gonna finish that. It says the Wampanoags moved several times during each year in order to get food. So now, why did they do that? They moved several times during each year for what? That represented your land Sabbaths, man. Because you're only supposed to till the earth for 7 years in one spot. And then you move to another part, you know what I'm saying, and start tilling that part. That's called your land Sabbath, man. And for 7 years after that, you're supposed to let the earth chill, man. It's like you got a cut in your arm and you keep digging into it and keep digging into it and keep digging into it. It's never going to heal. But it says, Salakia, in the spring They would fish in the rivers for salmon and herring. In the planting seasons, they moved to the forest to hunt deer and other animals. After the end of the hunting season, people moved inland where there was greater protection from the weather. From December to April, they lived on food that they stored during the early months. So yo, don't that ain't that how the animals do, man? Like the squirrels, they gather nuts and all that during the summer seasons and all that, the warm seasons, and they tuck them away so in the wintertime they could chill back in their crib and eat and eat and eat and eat and know they got enough, man. So the whole summer they're working, not chilling, they're working, man. You know? And it tells you in the scriptures to watch nature how they move, and we the top. Like you said, we the top creature in nature. We're the top creature in nature. All right. So it was telling you how the Native Americans move, and you got people saying that the Native Americans wasn't Israelites. Dudes saying that is bugged out their mind, man. And they don't understand scriptures, and they're novices and they don't know anything, man. All right. It says the basic dress for men was the breech clout, a length of deer skin looped over a belt in back and in front. Women wore deerskin wrapped around skirts, deerskin leggings, and fur caps, more from deer, beaver, otter, and bear skins. Damn, so these people hunted bears, gave protection during the coldest seasons, and deerskins, moccasins were worn on the feet. Moccasins were worn on the feet. Both men and women usually braided their hair. There go your locks. All right, there go your locks braided. Cause when you're braiding, you're locking your hair, man. All right, and not just that, and also when it goes back to let's see how they dress. It says deerskin leggings and fur caps made from deer, beaver, otter, and bear skins gave protection during the colder seasons, and deerskin moccasins were worn on the feet. Both men and women usually. All right, so now check that out. That right there is letting you know you still supposed to go out on the highways and byways too, man, and push this truth in the cold weather. What did they do? What was they doing? They was preparing for that cold weather, man. And guess what? They was in wartime. Why? Because they had to protect themselves from the so-called white man. The same way we gotta do now. We're doing it spiritually, not physically. It's more spiritually, bringing out their lies and all that. All right, they're bringing out their lies. So what you do? You put you go get some warm clothes, just like your ancestors. And these are talking about Gadites. All right. It says both men and women usually braided their hair, and a single feather was often worn in the back of their hair by men. They did not have the large feathered hard dresses worn by people in the plain culture areas. There were two language groups of Indians in New England at this time. The Iroquois, Iroquois, were neighbors to the Algonquin speaking people. Leaders of the Algonquin and Iroquois people were called sachems. Sachems. Each village had its own sachem and tribal council. Political power followed upward from the people. Any individual man or woman could participate, but among the Algonquins, more political power was held by men among the Araucas. However, women held the deciding vote in the final selection of who would represent the group, both men and women, enforce the laws of the village, and help solve problems. The details of their democratic system were so impressive that about 150 years later, Benjamin Franklin invited the Iroquois to Albany, New York, to explain their system to a delegation who then developed the Albany Plan of Union. This document later served as a model for the Articles of Confederation and the Constitution of the United States. All right, so man, they was using God all together, man, through everything. It says these Indians of the eastern woodlands called the turtle, the deer, and the fish, their brothers. They respected the forest and everything in it as equals. Whenever a hunter made a kill, he was careful to leave behind some bones or meat as a spiritual offering to help other animals survive. Not to do so would be considered greedy. All right, so that's what we did. But Esau was killing everything. Shalaki. My sinus is all fucked up. But it says, not to do so would be considered greedy. It says the Wampanoags also treated each other with respect, and that's having integrity amongst your brother, man. You know, that's how you know these dudes were Israelites. The so-called Native Americans, which you got a lot of Israelite groups. Well, not a lot. You got certain Israelite groups that like to say that the Native Americans wasn't Israelites. You know, but they'll welcome me in like, yeah, brother, you my brother, but I'm a Gadite. Like, come on, man, these dudes is retarded. It says any visitor to the Wampanoag home was provided with a share of whatever food the family had. All right, and I got a book called The Pennsylvania Indians, which that confirms this. Even if the supply was low, this same courtesy. See that? Now, this is where they messed up because you did that to your brothers. All right, you showed them love. Why? Because they was going to show you love back. You're not supposed to do that to a heathen, man. So that's where they went off at. It says this same courtesy was extended to the pilgrims when they met. Now it also tells in the scripture, if at all possible, live peaceable among men. But it doesn't say be an asshole or naive or dumb. If at all possible. All right? All right, verse Shalaki. Continuing on, it says, we can only guess what the Winnipeg. Shalaki, it's early in the morning. It says, we can only guess what the Wampanoags must have thought when they first saw the strange ships of the pilgrims arriving on their shores. But their custom was to help visitors, and they treated the newcomers with courtesy. So they was deep, man. But when it's talking about strangers and visitors, those are your brothers, man. You know, not talking about these heathen nations. So you had, and that goes for all the tribes, man. You had dudes that was off, just like they are off now, man. The only ones that could see clearly through these things are the hopeful elect, man. All right, it says it was mainly because of their kindness that the pilgrims survived at all. All right, so they treated them people like family, man, which they shouldn't have done. But you have brothers in there like, man, I don't trust these niggas, man. We should kill all them motherfuckers. You know? And the only reason it says, let's read that again. It says it was mainly because of their kindness that the pilgrims survived at all. And what was that? That was the spirit and power Yahweh Shem outside, because Yahweh Shem outside put the spirit on those Gadites not to do anything, man, just to chill. Because we was in violation, so he turned his back on us. It says the wheat the pilgrims had brought with them to plant would not grow in the rocky soil. They needed to learn new ways for a new world. And the man who came to help them was called Tisquantum. A Sequanto was originally from the village of Patuket, and a member of the Patuket, one Panag nation. Patuket once stood on the exact site where the Pilgrims built Plymouth in 1605. 15 years before the Pilgrims came, Sequanto went to England with a friend, English explorer named John Weymouth. He had many adventures and learned to speak English. Sequanto came back to New England with Captain Weymouth. Later, Sequanto was captured by a British slaver who raided the village and sold Sequanto to the Spanish in the Caribbean islands. A Spanish Franciscan priest befriended Sequanto and helped him to get to Spain, and later on a ship to England. Sequanto then found Captain Weymouth, who paid his way back to his homeland in England. Sequanto met Somerset of the Wabanaki tribe, who had also left his native home with Salakia. A tribe who had also left his native home with an English explorer. They both returned together to Patuxent in 1620. When they arrived, the village was deserted, and there were skeletons everywhere. Everyone in the village had died from an illness the English slavers had left behind. Sequanto and Somerset went to stay with the neighboring village of Wampanoags. 1 year later in the spring, Sequanto and Somerset were hunting along the beach near Patuxent. They were startled to see people from England in their deserted village. For several days they stayed nearby, observing the newcomers. Finally, they decided to approach them. Somerset walked into the village and said, "Welcome." Sequanto soon joined him. The pilgrims were very surprised to meet two Indians who spoke English. All right, because they thought that they were savages, man. These Edomites thought that they was the top grade, man. But our people, they adapt, man. It says the pilgrims, because as a matter of fact, at that point in time, they thought that they had wiped them all out, man. It says the pilgrims were not in good condition. Check it out, man. They wasn't in good condition, man. It says the pilgrims were not in good condition. They was living jacked up. And these Edomites got the nerve to act like they're better than somebody, when we the ones that taught them everything. It says they were living in dirt-covered shelters. There was a storage of Salakia. There was a shortage of food, and nearly half of them had died during the winter. They obviously needed help, and the two men were a welcome sight. Sequanto, who probably knew more English than any other Indian in North America at that time, decided to stay with the Pilgrims for the next few months and teach them how to survive in this new place. So we taught them how to survive in this place. But yet they now they learned things. They got too big for their britches and they saw that they could do it. And that's how Esau does you, man. That's a trait of Esau. Esau all day, a characteristic of him. Because he'll use you like, yo, teach me this, or you know this. And then as soon as you teach him and he figures that he got it down, he gets rid of you, man. All right? We're going to get into the scripture after this. I might have to make this part 3 and part 4 will be all the scriptures. It says he brought them a deer meat and beaver skins. He taught them how to cultivate corn and other new vegetables and how to build Indian style houses. So we taught them how to build our own houses. He pointed out poisonous plants, so we did that, and showed how other plants could be used as medicine. And now what does Esau do? That's how they got the pharmaceutical started over here, man. We taught them that shit. We showed them how to do it, and now they want to charge you for it. If that's not a devil, man, then where and who is he? It says he explained how to dig and cook clams, which I don't know about that part. Well, it sounds like a nigga. How to get sap from the maple trees, use fish for fertilizer, and dozens of other skills needed for their survival. But by the time fall arrived, things were going much better for the Pilgrims, thanks to the help they had received. The corn they planted had grown well. There was enough food to last the winter. Because that's what we do, anything we put our hands to. And that goes back into the curses, man. It says they were living comfortably in their Indian-style wigwams and had also managed to build one European-style building out of square logs. This was their church. They were now in better health, and they knew more about surviving in this new land. The Pilgrims decided to have a Thanksgiving feast to celebrate their good fortune. They had observed Thanksgiving feasts in November as religious obligations in England for many years before coming to the New World. The Algonquin tribes had 6 Thanksgiving festivals during the year. The beginning of Algonquin year was marked by the maple dance, which gave thanks to the Creator for the maple tree and its syrup. This ceremony occurred when the weather was warm, so that's letting you know about the Passover and all that. The weather was warm enough for the sap to run in the maple trees, sometimes as early as February. There we go. Second was the planting feast, where the seeds were blessed. The strawberry festival was next, celebrating the first fruits of the season. Summer brought the green corn festival to give thanks for the ripening corn. And in late fall, the harvest festival gave thanks for the food they had grown midwinter. Was the last ceremony of the old year. When the Indians sat down to the first Thanksgiving with the Pilgrims, it was really the 5th Thanksgiving of the year for them. Captain Miles Standish, the leader of the Pilgrims, invited Sequanto, Somerset Massasoit, the leader of the Wampanoags, and their immediate families to join them for a celebration, but they had no idea how big Indian families could be. As the Thanksgiving feast began, the pilgrims were overwhelmed at the large turnout of the 90 relatives that Sequanto and Samoset brought with them. It tells you to be fruitful and multiply, you know? It's going to be numbered like the sand on the sea and the stars in the sky, not Esau. It says the pilgrims were not prepared to feed a gathering of people that large for 3 days. All right, it says for 3 days. Seeing this, Massasoit gave orders to his men within the first hour of his arrival to go home and get more food. Thus it happened that the Indians supplied the majority of the food. 5 deer and many wild turkeys, fish, beans, squash, corn, soup, cornbread, and berries. Captain Standish sat at one end of a long table, and the clan chief Massasoit sat at the other end. For the first time, the Wampanoag people were sitting at a table to eat instead of on mats or furs spread on the ground. The Indian women sat together with the Indian men to eat. The pilgrim women, however, stood quietly behind the table and waited until after their men had eaten, since that was their custom. I don't know about that. It says for 3 days, the Wampanoags feasted with the pilgrims. It was a special time of friendship between two very different groups of people. A peace and friendship agreement was made between Massasoit and Miles Standish, giving the pilgrims the clearing in the forest where the old Patuxet village once stood to build. Their new town of Plymouth. It would be very good to say that this friendship lasted a long time, but unfortunately, that was not to be. More English people came to America, and they were not in need of help from the Indians as were the original pilgrims. Many of the newcomers forgot the help the Indians had given them. Of course they would. Mistrust started to grow and the friendship weakened. The pilgrims, because we always wrestle with them bastards, the pilgrims started telling their Indian neighbors that their Indian religion and Indian customs were wrong. The pilgrims displayed an intolerance. That's why you can't be unequally yoked with motherfuckers, man. You can't be unequally yoked. Because this is the things that happen. And guess what? That goes back to Genesis, the 49th chapter. All right, in the 19th verse. The troop overcame us. It says, Indian religion similar to intolerance display toward the less popular religions in Europe. The relationship deteriorated, and within a few years, the children of the people who ate together at the first Thanksgiving were killing one another in what came to be called King Philip's War. So that's heavy. That's why it's called Fuck Your Thanksgiving. It says, it's sad to think that this happened, but it is important to understand all of the story and not just the happy part. Today, the town of Plymouth Rock has a Thanksgiving ceremony each year in remembrance of the first Thanksgiving. There are still Wampanoag people living in Massachusetts in 1970. They asked one of them to speak at the ceremony to mark the 350th anniversary of the Pilgrim's arrival. Here is part of what was said. Now, this is a Gadite. Frank James' speech was written but was suppressed and he did not speak at the ceremony. It says, this is what he says, today is a time of celebrating for you, a time of looking back to the first days of white people in America. But it is not a time of celebrating for me. It is with a heavy heart that I look back upon what happened to my people when the pilgrims arrived. We, the Wampanoags, welcomed them with open arms, little knowing that it was the beginning of the end, that before 50 years were to pass, the Wampanoag would no longer be a tribe, that we and other Indian living near the settlers would be killed by their guns or dead from diseases that we caught from them. Let us always remember the Indian is and was just as human as the white man. So now they're going off with that. It says, although our Salakia, although our way of life is almost gone, we the Wampanoag still walk the lands of Massachusetts. What has happened cannot be changed. But today we work toward a better America, a more Indian America, where people and nature once again are important. You know what I'm saying? So at the end, this dude went off with his speech. But it says he ain't even write it, man. You know? And that was just a little bit more history, man. And that's part 3 of fuck your your Thanksgiving. Fuck your Thanksgiving. After all these things I'm reading about my ancestors and my Akim's ancestors, man, it's crazy. So any nigga that come across this video, and see it, and you still celebrate that wicked ass holiday, you out of pocket, man. Y'all about to me outside gonna deal with you. Alright? And with that, I'm gonna say shalom to the next lesson. Part 4 is coming with the scriptures to go with all 3 segments of this lesson. Alright? Shalom, death to America, stay strong. We almost out of here.